Welcome to the Urban Wine Club podcast. Pour a glass, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another fantastic episode of the Urban Wine Club podcast. I am Ari, and I am here with one of my favorite people, Foti Stamos. How are you, Foti?
I'm grading yourself, my favorite person.
Oh, it's mutual? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's mutual.
We are here today with a very special guest. Foti has been hyping this guy up. So, everything I've learned about him, it's amazing stuff. You know what? Let me just give it to Foti so he could bring him on because we're pretty excited today.
Absolutely. As always, all of our guests that come onto the Urban Wine Club podcast come from different backgrounds in the world of wine and beverages, whether they're producers, whether they're importers, distributors, you name it. But this gentleman, as you mentioned, Ari, that you said that you've learned quite a bit from myself. I also have learned over the years from our guest that's coming on, who, in my opinion, is an icon in the industry for many reasons. And having said that, let's bring on our guest, Howie Rubin. Howie, thank you so much for taking the time. It's an honor to have you here because, yes, you are an icon. I'll repeat that through the segment. Welcome to the show.
So icon first, and then legend, and then they bury me. Is that how it works?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, we're in the first half of this timeline here.
Yeah, let's not jump too far ahead with that.
We'll look back instead of forward.
Right. But as you mentioned, legend for sure. And in my personal travels of being in the wine world for the last 25 years, I've started at a point where I knew very little, and along the way I met great people who helped mold my vision, my perception, and my taste into wine. And you have to be along that path with me as well. But more importantly, you have a very fascinating background that we'd love for you to share with our audience. If we can kind of dive into that first, and where did the love for wine start for you?
Well, let's see. The journey started back in 1975. So if you do the math, this is the 50th year I've been in the wine business, and I was a member of the London Wine Bar, which was America's first wine bar in San Francisco, and I became head waiter there for a couple of years, knew nothing at all about wine. Wines by the glass in 1975, so we do 12 wines by the glass every week. We did winemaker dinners. We had it going on, and it was downtown San Francisco, and things were percolating, and it was just a great time to be in the wine business, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I just kind of fell into it, fell in love with it, and every weekend would go off into a different direction. Napa one weekend, Sonoma, Mendocino, Paso Robles, Big Sur, you hit the whole state because it was all accessible at that point.
Right.
That just sounds so cool. Just in my mind, when I picture as you're speaking, that must have been an amazing experience.
And the timing must have been right on the money there, because that's when things started to brew in California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's when it just started happening. That's when things started percolating a little bit, and then it just blew up, and wine became the thing, and everybody was like going to wineries and learning about it and traveling, and it became a real interactive social thing in San Francisco back at the time, and there was a lot of great things happening besides wine. There was music, there was culture, there was a free-for-all attitude that you don't find anywhere else anymore, and it was just a great time to be in the business, so I caught the bug. And I went up to Mayacamas up in Napa Valley, and I did a couple of crushes with Bob Travers up at Mayacamas, and that got me into a different aspect of the business, and busted my hump picking grapes and dodging rattlesnakes, and just had a great time learning about what goes into making wine, which not everybody does. It's a lot of hard work.
That must have been a priceless experience. A lot of us in the industry might go through like training and certifications and classes and this and that, but to be able to do a crush and to be there, that's a whole different outlook and experience in itself.
Well, nobody will ever be able to tell me that a bottle of wine is too expensive because I know the hard work that goes into it, and it's all related to nature. If nature doesn't cooperate, you don't get much that year. So it was a backbreaking endeavor. I really got a good look at the wine business, and I still worked at the wine bar at the same time. So that was in the late 70s, and then I moved to Florida at a certain point and became a sommelier at the Breakers in Palm Beach.
Oh, wow.
And there was a whole different experience. It was formal service, had to cut my hair and beard, of course. It was a whole different experience, learning service, and learning how to talk to people about European wine, which I really knew nothing about at that point. So it really rounded me out, and it was a great experience for me.
Breakers. I'm sure you met some interesting people at the Breakers at that time, I'm assuming.
Well, the first night that I worked, they said, "Let's see what you got, kid. Go pour for the celebrity dais." And I had Suzanne Summers and Raquel Welch, like
Wow.
right at the head table,
No
and
way.
my hand shaking, and I'm trying not to divert my eyes, and it was just it was a real test. So I met the test, and after that, I hung in there for like 6 months. I earned my taste of wine, and we did pour a lot of great wine for a lot of good celebrities, and I just really learned the whole European wine program, which I didn't know before. I tried to get them to buy some California wine, and they weren't quite ready yet. So,
Oh,
it's
interesting.
very much a European institution.
And then Howie, let's fast forward a little bit. So, what led you back to Boston or Massachusetts?
Well, after my stint at the Breakers, my father passed away. My brother lived in Massachusetts. I had never really been here before. He said, "Yeah, come up to Boston, see what's going on." That was 1980, and I moved up here and I answered an ad in the Boston Globe for wine store manager on Newbury Street, not knowing what to expect. And a gentleman named Mr. Bauer interviewed me, and we hit it off. And I thought I'd do it for a while, then move on to something else. And like 43 years later, I was still at Bauer Wines in one form or another, many ownerships, but it was a great store back in the day. Newbury Street was popping. There was a lot of fun in town. The Boston wine culture at that point was just growing. It was becoming a real movement in the United States that everybody respected Boston for what they did and how the wine sold and the business that it attract and the celebrities that it attract in the business. So it was a fun time to be in the Boston wine business.
Oh yeah. And being at that location, as you mentioned, I over the years, whenever we mentioned great wine shops, Bauer was usually right at the top all the time. It was either referred to as, let's go to Bauer's or let's go see Howie. Yeah, that was how it came down to. And
Yeah, it was a fun time. We attracted all kinds of people. There was a lot of students, of course, that every year you like train the new students' palates to try and get them into wine, and there's a lot of tourists coming through that were fun. But the celebrities are the ones that really like stand out in my mind because you never know who would walk through the door on a given day, and it was
any
always fun to see the
any
type of people that we'd attract.
any celebrities that you'd like to mention that might have came through the doors at Bauer?
Well, a couple of images in my mind that stand out. One is a duo of Rick Ocasek from the Cars, who's like
Come on.
6'5" and 150 pounds, and John Belushi standing next
What?
to him, who was like 5'6" and 300 pounds. The two of them are
That is
standing at my
so.
counter. One of them's offering me a beer. The other one's trying to get out of there. So, we had the car studio was right next door to us. So you never know who
Wow.
would walk in the door. We had a lot of encounters with the Jaggers and, Peter
Wow.
Wolf came in all the time and we got to
Wow.
know him very well. And it was a good time to be on Newbury Street.
That's
See,
amazing.
see, Ari, what wine can do for you. It can bring you around really
Seriously.
cool people.
But I'm going to say one thing. We talk to a lot of industry people. We talk to a lot of, people who have been around wine, but I'm just going to say this, Howie, like you have a vibe about you and everything I'm hearing, like wherever you go, it's a good time. So I'm following you wherever you're going to be. I'm in.
Excellent. I'll be
The
right there with
the
you.
wine business is all about people.
Right.
So, the wine is wine, wine is great, and wine is the centerpiece, but it's the people that surround the wine that you get involved and you kind of sculpt their palates and you get to know them and it becomes part of a culture. And then wine in the 80s in Boston was a culture. There was a lot of tastings in town and very interactive. There wasn't a lot of competition amongst stores and restaurants, and everybody was out and everybody was drinking wine. And there were great events. There was great events at all the different hotels and restaurants and stores, and it was percolating back then.
It's also a testament to you because the longevity you have in this business and the fact that you're still in it and you have all these experience and you've been so many places. That is a testament to you as a people person.
Well, that's what it comes down to is like it's the people that keep me involved. I
Mhm.
mean, I love wine and I'll always pursue wine and I'll always, I'll always not know more than I know about wine, which keeps me pursuing it. but it's the people and the relationships that you make along the way. I mean, relationships with my customers over the years, and I can't put a price on it. It's kept me going, and I love people, and I love to teach them about wine, and I love to, it's a whole experience. It's not just wine. It's
Well,
travel. It's going to cool places and do this and do that, and wine is part of it. It's a whole circle of culture that I've tried to encourage over the years. And my main comment about it is living well is the best revenge.
I
there you go.
love that.
I've
Having
tried
said
to do
that,
that.
having said all that, Howie, I think the wine world definitely needs more Howies, especially in the times we're in today. And that leads me to my next question for you is that over the years, you've been in it for so many years, I'm sure you've seen many changes. Can we speak a little bit about the current change that we're seeing that, maybe our audience can kind of connect with and maybe put some light into maybe some of the things that might not be going so well with wine?
Well, the biggest challenge we face right now is the younger generation. People in their 20s that are, just getting out into the world, making a little money, putting their feet in the water. That we're trying to get them to drink more wine, and that's the biggest challenge we're facing right now. They love other things. They love cocktails to go. They love craft beer. Wine really hasn't been embraced by that generation. So, it's our job as educators and media people and retailers and restaurateurs to try and bring them in. And you have to take it off the pedestal. You can't make it stuffy. You got to make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the orange wines that, a lot of people are involved with right now. And
Sure.
people love that category. And that's great for the youth if it gets them in. The people in their 30s and 40s are already pretty established. But the way I see things now, we have to do a lot of pivoting at all levels. People have to pivot. They have to change their taste according to their budget. And, with impending tariffs coming in, you may have to drink other things. So, you always have to be very flexible in your taste. You gotta try new things. You know that, Fody.
Of
You're
course.
you're an educator. So you
Right.
got to give them a Sirtico. You got to give them Saparava from Georgia.
Project,
You
yeah.
got to give them like some other fun wines to, keep them interested. And
Agreed.
you don't want to listen to the same tune every day. You want to change the station. You want to play different music. You want to drink different wine. So,
Well,
that's our
that's well
job.
said. Yeah, that's well said. And a lot of industry people are scratching their heads, and you just nailed it about pivoting. We have to pivot. What used to work yesterday, or a week ago, or a month ago, or a year ago, might not be working today. So being able to pivot definitely will help us keep us going and in the game. But I think the romance with wine will never die, in my opinion. It's just a moment of the timelines of when folks are entering wine to begin with, right? Because there's just so much innovation today with different beverages. It could be a distraction from wine.
It does, and I think at the restaurant level they see it because people come in and the cocktail culture is so huge right now that the cocktail menu is like 3 pages long and the wine list is 1 page long. So people can have a cocktail and maybe a glass of wine. So you're losing that little traction in the wine world, and maybe it's a trend, maybe it's here to stay. I would like to see more wine focus at the restaurant and hotel level, but that's a work in progress. And right now what I'm seeing is people are really paying attention to their budgets. So
Good point.
the tough time we're going down a road where things are going to cost more. So you still want to drink wine, but you just don't maybe have the budget you used to have. So it's our job as retailers, educators, to find things that are $20 and under.
There you
Great stuff, $20 and under that's compelling and different. And you could drink it on a Tuesday and not have to think twice about it.
So it seems that's the sweet spot. Under 20, we can find some really good values.
Mm.
And that also now leads me, Howie. You're currently now the beverage director at one of my favorite wine shops, Vin Fromage, up in Hamilton, Wenham. Let's talk about that new venture and transition from, Boston up north.
It was perfect timing for me, Bodie, that Mark Harris and Maria Lakekos, who own the properties up here, they always had a vision of doing this like Parisian wine shop. There was another shop in its place that left, and then they said, we can do this. So they were smart enough to hire correctly. So Dan McElligott, who was the managing partner, worked at Italy, and I worked at Bowers. So Mark's a Back Bay guy, and he knew who to look for. And we both jumped at the chance. And the way things have evolved, it's just the perfect opportunity for us and for the community. People have embraced us wholeheartedly. It's been a great way to like wind down my career. I enjoy coming to work every day and dealing with the people that I deal with who are older, and they're just very experimental and trustworthy. So it's a great position for me to be in personally. I think the shop has evolved over the 16 months we've been open. It's just a beautiful space, and it's got a little bit of everything, but most importantly, it's got a high energy and an engaging quality that you don't see in a lot of shops these days. So we engage people in what they like to eat, what they like to drink, what they like to do, where they like to travel, where they like to ski. It's all part of a community of wine, food, culture, North Shore community people. So everything interacts perfectly here, and it's just been a revelation to me to join this team.
Yeah. And for those that are listening to this episode, for those of you that should make it a point to visit Vin from Mars, it's a very beautiful build out. I haven't seen that kind of a build out in wine shops. 2 levels, just amazing aesthetics, and the energy that you mentioned. The second you walk through the door, it just hits you in the face. So whether you're in the North Shore area, and if you're not, it's well worth a visit to come see Howie and actually go through the selections that they curate for you, right?
It's unbelievable that Dan knows things about cheese. You can ask him about a cheese, and he'll know the cow that licked itself to make the cheese.
That's the cheese I want.
The product is some cool products, but we've also developed like an outdoor space. We have a couple of patios that Mark built out, and we do some great events out there. Like we did a taco bar, we did an oyster fest, we did a Basque Spain event, we did Paella Fest. And we get people to come out, and it's just very interactive. So people come, they learn a little bit, they have fun, they hang out in our back porch, and it's a great way to get to know your customers and to get people out of the house and enjoy themselves and educate.
Right.
Excellent. Well, you're definitely going to see us there at some point very soon. And Howie, is there anything maybe you can mention now to the audience as far as like address? How they can get more information that you might want to share about the wine shop?
Yeah, it's 152 Main Street in Wenham. We're open 7 days a week. If you want to take a nice drive through the North Shore, we're right on Route 1A. You can head up to like Gloucester and Essex and, make a day out of it and, bring a cooler because you can have cheese in it. So, on our Instagram page has all of our events. So we're planning a lot of events this summer. We have winemakers coming in and we're going to get music on the patio. So it's really interactive. It encompasses all the great things about retail that make people want to stay in this business and make people want to come out and enjoy themselves and live life the way they should.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, Howie, we can talk forever. We can definitely bring you back on the show to pick your brain more about wine in detail. We wanted our audience to have the opportunity to actually listen to the legend himself. Thank you for sharing the journey, the information. Before I actually end off with one question, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, and I'm very grateful for you guys for what you do because you're perpetuating the great spirit, wine, and beer world, and keeping people interested and have their interest piqued in different aspects of the business. And we need more of it. Like what you guys do is essential for the growth of our business and to keep people involved. And that's what we need in these times.
Yeah. Well, thank you for acknowledging that. We definitely appreciate it because we believe that we definitely need something of this sort to keep it going. So having said that, here's a question for you, Howie.
Mm-hmm.
If Howie happened to be stranded on a remote island, could be the Mediterranean, it could be the Pacific, and you could only bring one bottle of wine with you, what bottle would that be?
That's a tough one.
That's a challenging one. I got asked that question like 25 years ago by Eddie Andelman. I was on the Phantom Gourmet,
Huh.
and he asked me that question. I was a little younger then, and I think I came up with the Krug Le Menil single vineyard champagne. So that was then, and this is now. My tastes have changed. I'm a big believer in the setting for wine, and since we're in a desert island, it's probably going to be hot. I'm going to leave the big reds behind. So I think my choice would be, a large format, since you're allowed one bottle. So either, a Magnum
Not very.
3 liter, 6 liter. I'll probably do something like a Domaine Leflevre, Polini Montrachet, Pucelle, single vineyard, something like that with sufficient bottle age to it. And I can nurse that over the next couple of days. So I think that would be my number one choice.
And that's an amazing choice, excellent choice. And Howie, just for those guests that are listening that are getting new into wine, can you simplify that selection for them when you're speaking of that specific wine for them?
That specific wine is the ultimate Chardonnay. And that's Chardonnay is never my first choice, but when it's made in Burgundy and at the hands of Domaine Leflevre from a single vineyard, it takes on complexities and levels of quality that no other one in the world can match. The only
Awesome.
other thing I would think of as my second choice would be a
Ah,
large format of Clos Saint Yun from Trimbach.
Trumbo.
So the single vineyard Riesling, because Riesling and islands kind of go well together.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that, Howie. Always a pleasure. Ari, I'm assuming that your taste buds are salivating today
Oh
after.
man, we deal with wine and industry and people constantly, and this is the most hyped up I've gotten for wine. It's like 9:30 in the morning, but Howie, you do your job well. We appreciate you. We want to thank you for joining us and just the stories. I want to get more into these stories. There's a couple of movies that have done wonders for the wine industry. I'm thinking a life story of Howie could be in the next movie that could pump up this industry.
We got to get in
I don't know what you'd rate that.
Well,
There's some
rated by
stories.
glasses of wine.
There's some Newberry Street stories that that may not make the cutting room floor.
No, man, we're keeping it all in. We got to get the whole story.
Yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
thank you so much,
Thank
Howie.
you, Howie.
We appreciate it, and we appreciate your knowledge and your experience that you bring to the table. And anybody who visits the shop and gets to chat with you is lucky. I mean, they will get a good experience. And thanks again.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the sharing.
Thank you. And we want to thank everybody out there for watching and listening. All Howie's information and bio are in the notes, links, and all that stuff. Go up and visit him when you have a chance. Thank you, Foti. Thanks again, Howie. And we will see you all next time.